Welcome back to Problematic Women. We have a great episode for you this week because I don't know if you heard, but the government shut down this week. There's a lot of information going on out there. So we're going to give you the Democrat side, the Republican side, and we're going to ask you at the end, who do you think actually shut down the government? There have been some crazy reactions coming out of this, and we're just going to break it all down for you and make it really simple to understand because it's really confusing for us, even in Washington, who live here, to understand what's going on. Also, Crystal had a great interview with a member of British Parliament, Katie Lamb. Conservatism is on the rise in Britain due to some unfortunate happenings recently, and let's see if that actually sticks. Let's see if they're impressed by Trumpisms here and if they can implement it there. And also on the pop culture front, there is more to NFL's halftime show performer decision than meets the eye. We're going to break it all down today on Problematic Women. Welcome back to Problematic Women. I'm Elise McCue.
I'm Morgan.
I'm Crystal.
And Crystal, please plug your amazing interview that came out yesterday.
Oh my gosh. Okay,
we're just going to get into it right now.
Love it. In case you missed it, yesterday we released the full audio and video from my interview with Steele, who just is such a rock star. Mm-hmm. She's amazing. She had this storied career in sports broadcasting, and she stood up to the tyrants in Hollywood and said, forget that. I'm going to tell truth. So now she has Steele show. We sat down and talked about her experience telling the truth, standing up for herself. We were both at Charlie's memorial, so we talked about that. It was just a few days after the memorial, so very raw and real, but it's great. So if you missed it, go check it out.
It was around 5 years ago, like to the day that you interviewed her, that she got let go from Disney because she complied with her vaccine mandate, but she had an opinion on it and she spoke out about it. So I think that's kind of crazy. That was one of the craziest parts of the interview, and I just loved watching all of it. So if you haven't caught it, please go watch it. Please feel free to watch it on YouTube and Rumble, but also audio is great. But yeah, like we said, the government shut down this week.
Shut down.
It is crazy. And Morgan, I had no idea how to condense all this information into one, but you do. So you're going to tell us what happened.
I'm going to do my best because honestly, a lot of the feedback that I've been getting this week about the government shutdown is, what does the government shutdown mean? What is it to be a filibuster? Why can't Republicans just vote it through? Don't we have the majority in the House, the Senate, and the White House? Like, none of this makes sense. So I'm not sure if you knew, but the government is shut down. I don't know how you wouldn't know that from this week. But basically, the reason why that it kind of gets this point is October 1 is the beginning of the fiscal year. So that means that Congress has to vote on the budget, or what they could call a continuous resolution, and they have to vote on it to get it passed through to then, all of the finances are allocated towards all of the different departments. And this also means that when there is a shutdown, a lot of people aren't getting paid or they're having to reduce a lot of the federal staffing, so security offices and things like that. So basically, Congress needs to pass this funding bill. And if they don't, it's going to continue on until they can get to a resolution. So I'm sure you've probably heard, the viewers out there, what a filibuster is. A filibuster is when somebody delays the vote by talking too long and just pushing the vote, either delaying it a day, a couple hours, whatever the vote is, or even threatening to delay the vote by talking and speaking too long, which I didn't know that you don't actually have to speak for 10 hours to have a filibuster. You just have to threaten that you're going to do it, and then it delays the vote.
That feels very DC.
Yeah. This is really what our politicians are up to. It's like a cat and a mouse game between the left and the right.
You know the meme where it's like nothing ever happens?
That's
what it feels like.
This is literally what it feels like. So the government shutdown officially happened on Tuesday, correct? It was Tuesday
I
when
believe
they
so.
were.
Tuesday night was the deadline.
Was the deadline.
So
yes.
officially closed as of Wednesday.
On Wednesday.
We had our Daily Signal reporters at home in their jammies reporting, and they were getting out some great content. So check that out if you haven't seen it. But
so normally you just need a simple majority to vote, which is 51 votes to get something passed, except in the cases of a filibuster where you need 60 votes to get something passed, which means in this case, some of the Democrats would need to vote in favor of the Republicans in order to pass the vote. There's a lot of issues going on because of this spending package. Basically, the Democrats want to completely reverse the big, beautiful bill, put simply. A lot of that has to do with healthcare, the Affordable Care Act, reversing recent cuts to Medicaid and other social spending. And the big one that everyone's talking about is wanting to fund healthcare for illegal immigrants.
It's like the same song and dance with USAID and funding abortions
That too.
and healthcare for illegals and trannies across the sea. It's like the same thing, but here on our land. And I'm just like, this again? Seriously?
Like, it just doesn't make sense why the Democrats continuously are doing this, which, one thing that's been thrown out is, how is this possible when Republicans control everything? Well, I think the Democrats are doing it intentionally.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of course, yeah. And, the right is framing this as Schumer's shutdown. The left is framing it as a Republican's fault, which is pretty ironic because when you think about it, as simply as I can try to make this, what they're avoiding a vote on is extending the date to actually make a decision.
Right.
This is
Right?
a short-term spending.
Right. This is short-term, like CR, essentially. They're trying to say, we need to negotiate more on spending, so let's kick the can down the road. I think it's 7 weeks. And the Democrats are like, absolutely not.
We need to decide right now.
Right. And it's ridiculous because most of what is in that package is a Biden-era spending package. So it's like you're now shutting the government down and causing all this chaos because of your own spending package.
Yeah.
It's just, it's quintessential DC, makes absolutely no sense. And it's hilarious to see some of the reactions. I don't know if we want to jump into this right away.
Oh, absolutely. We want to jump into it. Well, actually, first, I think no one could put it better than our own Vice President, J.D. Vance. He shuts down all of the arguments on the left about like the illegal immigrants, and a bunch of them, I don't know if you've logged on to Twitter recently, but they're all like, we're not doing that. It's a Republican lie. Like, don't believe what you're reading, offering
So
no
bad.
explanation what they say is actually going on.
Yeah.
So here is a clip of J.D. Vance. We're going to roll it, and him explaining what's going on and why they actually are trying to fund healthcare for illegal immigrants.
This is a Democrat talking point. They say we're not actually trying to give health care benefits to illegal aliens, and here's why it's not true. There are 2 Biden-era programs that explicitly gave the taxpayer health care money to illegal aliens that we turned off when President Trump took over in January. Program number 1 is there's a lot of emergency health care at hospitals that are provided to illegal aliens. That was funded by the federal government. We turned off that funding because, of course, we want American citizens to benefit from those hospital services, not to be taxed and then to have those hospital services go to illegal aliens. The second of which is the Biden administration gave mass parole to millions upon millions of illegal aliens, and then they simultaneously made those parolees eligible for health care benefits funded by taxpayers. In the One Big Beautiful Bill, President Trump and congressional Republicans turned off that money to health care funding for illegal aliens. The Democrats want to turn it back on. And in their initial proposal, the first thing that they put out to reopen the government, they actually turned that money for health care benefits for illegal aliens back on. So it's not something that we made up. It's not a talking point. It is in the text of the bill that they initially gave to us to reopen the government. It's preposterous for them to run away from it now. But look, let's set that all to the side. Let's open up the government. Let's negotiate on all of these healthcare policy issues. Obviously, we're not going to support healthcare benefits for illegal aliens, but we will work with them to lower healthcare costs for American citizens if they're willing to do so.
He said it exactly right. It's in the text of the bill, but the Democrats telling you that they're not trying to get this through believe that you haven't read the bill. And you know what?
You probably haven't.
You probably
That's
haven't,
okay.
and that's okay.
Honestly,
but
I
do
feel
your
like a lot of
research.
people in Congress haven't even
Yeah.
read the bill, especially when it's like the size of, when it's like over 1,000 pages. It's like 2 full boxes of paper, which I honestly think is ridiculous that our bills are so long. I'm very pro like line item voting.
Yeah.
But JD's like hit the nail on the head, and it really is so disingenuous for the Democrats to hide behind the large bill and not just be upfront and honest of like, yeah, we do want health care for illegals, because I think that their own base would turn on them if they actually recognized what their party was pushing.
Absolutely. And there's so many different approaches to messaging from the Democrat side. As we've seen, a lot of them are going hard and being like, this is a threat to our democracy, this is a Trump shutdown, like the usual things that you hear from them. But then they also are trying to do some funny memes. And you know what? Trump did a funny meme too. And we'll throw it up on the screen here, but he posted actually, no, it was like an AI video GIF, I don't remember what it was, of Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, and Hakeem Jeffries had a sombrero on, and J.D. Vance actually reacted to that this past week at a press conference, and he was like, it's funny, but also they're being ridiculous, so we're going to put a ridiculous meme of them.
The left has no capacity for comedy anymore. And it's just, you're seeing it play out in real time. It's so fun.
Yeah, they have no capacity for comedy However, they are unintentionally funny, and we saw some of Congress's reactions to this. So I want to play a clip first of Chuck Schumer, and you actually brought this to my attention. You sent it to me.
This is
It was so good. What exactly happened? We're gonna load up that clip.
Okay, you have to see it with your own eyes, right? Chuck Schumer is doing the CNN interview, and to their credit, the CNN journalist is asking him, Republicans are framing this as the Schumer shutdown. What do you think of that, essentially? And his closing line at the end of this clip is just money, because Chuck Schumer loses the audio in his ear. Something happens. He doesn't hear the question, which also he's a million years old.
Schumer shut down.
Schumer shut down, quite literally. But we can play the clip.
Every Republican who's gone on TV the last 12 hours or so has called this the Schumer shutdown. What do you say about that name? Senator Schumer, can you hear me?
I can't hear.
Senator Schumer, can you hear me? I don't think Senator Schumer can hear me right now. Maybe the government shutdown included audio on Capitol Hill.
That is pure gold.
You can't make this up, right? And it's I can't hear. It's well, we know you can't hear. Also, apparently you can't hear the American people, because they delivered a mandate to President Trump and his entire agenda this past election, and you don't have the time to listen to them.
I like to think that he's just been up for days over this shutdown, and he just pretended to not hear the audio.
I can't hear. I don't want to answer your question. Yeah. I can't hear.
Next.
And, I don't know if it's better or worse than this next clip that we have, because was it better just to not say anything or admit what Republicans are saying? Here is Representative Maxine Waters. I'm going to run that clip. She basically admits what we've all been saying about the healthcare for illegals, so we're just going to play that here.
Yeah,
do Democrats want to prioritize the healthcare of illegal aliens over a government shutdown? Because if the government does shut down, American
Excuse me, stop it right there. We're not prioritizing. What we're doing is saying simply we want to keep the government open, and we want to work with the Republicans and have a bipartisan agreement to keep this government open, and health care is at the top of our agenda.
But aren't Democrats demanding health care for illegal aliens?
Democrats are demanding health care for everybody. We want to save lives. We want to make sure that health care is available to those who would die, but having the help of their government.
So you're good with the government shutdown, even if it means giving health care to people who aren't American citizens?
Well, that's what you're pushing on. What you're trying to do is you're standing here and you're trying to make me say that somehow we're going to put non-citizens over Americans. Quit it. Stop it. This is the kind of journalism we don't need.
No, I'm just
you're divisive.
Questions.
No, you're not.
Yeah, no,
you're being divisive. No, please, don't. You don't need to ask that question. You're just trying to get controversy here. You're not going to get it from me. We want to save health care for all people. Thank you.
Thank you, Congresswoman.
I honestly, this clip I feel like is the quintessential Democrat of saying, we want to keep the government open. We want a resolution with Republicans. We'll do anything we can, but we want health care for everybody, and that includes illegal immigrants, so the government's going to shut down.
Oh, and add on, also, if you ask a question about it, don't. You suck, and you're the one who's causing
divisive.
problems.
How dare you do your job?
How
ask
dare
questions?
you? How dare you ask the green M&M that question?
Her attitude is peak.
It's crazy.
It's the division thing is such nonsense, because America is I would argue, the most compassionate country on the face of this planet.
To a fault.
So her whole premise where it's well, if we don't give illegal aliens access to the American healthcare system for free,
which taxpayers are paying for,
right? Then somehow we're evil and we want them all to die. Which these are not the same thing, right? But to say you're trying to get us to say that we prioritize illegals over citizens. Well, you kind of do. You are. Right?
Also, it was when your whole argument is deflection and saying, you're trying to get me to say this, but then you offer no solution. That's been their whole theme ever since Trump came back, complaining, 100%. No solutions. And I'm well, maybe that is your argument, because that's the only thing I'm hearing from you.
And I feel like there is kind of this rhetoric where Republicans are anti-healthcare, which is very interesting to me because JD was very clear of we will come to the table, and if that means lowering healthcare costs in certain factions, then okay, great, we'll do that. But we're not going to bend the knee and give health care for free to people who have entered our country illegally. And that is the hill that the Democrats are willing to die on. And I truly just don't understand that.
And it's so ironic that earlier in the same week, President Trump had in the Oval Office the Eli Lilly CEO, other pharmaceutical representatives, where they're getting really creative in bringing down healthcare costs and prescription medicine costs for Americans and for everyone, frankly, because they came up with this really clever thing. It's like most favored nation status for drugs. It's like Americans forever have subsidized the cost of research and development of drugs that then are exported to other countries.
So
and
interesting.
Other countries pay way less for the same medication that we would buy here. Trump's like, no more of that. Like, we're not going to keep subsidizing this. Like, you're not going to charge us more when you charge other countries less. And meanwhile, we're footing the bill for all your research. So the same week that Trump is finding clever, creative ways to bring down healthcare costs for Americans, you have the Democrats out there spewing this nonsense.
Yeah, and you know what? You know that the White House, not just Trump, but the White House in general is having fun with this too, especially all the jokes about like, oh, my social media guy got furloughed, but like make America great again. Caroline Leavitt Scott Jennings shared the tip line. What was it?
You can call basically the White House if you want to like leave comments. So it's like a commenting tip line type of thing with the White House.
Okay, so we have a clip of what happens if you try to call them this week. Scott Jennings shared this, and we're going to roll that clip now.
Make him call it.
Thank you for calling the White House comment line. Hello, America. This is White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt. Democrats in Congress have shut down the federal government because they care more about funding health care for illegal immigrants than they care about serving you, the American people. Until Democrats vote for the clean, Republican-backed continuing resolution to reopen the government, the White House is unable to answer your call or respond to your questions. We look forward to hearing from you again very soon. And in the meantime, please know President Trump will never stop fighting for you. Thank you, and God bless you.
Love it. Absolute
Savage.
cinema.
Love.
Yeah, and they've been having fun over on their social media with this, and so the Republicans. And to some Democrats' credits, a handful of them have voted to pass this continuing resolution. Senator John Fetterman has. No one else off the top of my head. He usually he surprises people with how he's going to vote.
I'm very curious, though, of like when they actually do get to a vote, who are going to be the Democrats that decide, you know what, we're going to put our right foot forward and be like, you know what, we're going to pass this CR, but then I feel like they may get ostracized by the rest of their situation.
100%. I mean, Fetterman's a great example. There's been a few times he's broken and voted with the Republicans, and he's kind of persona non grata to the left now.
Right.
I know they say some very nasty things about like, oh, did he get a concussion, or like just really bad stuff about like his like mental acuity. But our colleague Jared Stepman at the Daily Signal wrote it best in one of his op-eds this week. You should go check it out. Actually, I'll link that in the comments section. He said that the Democrat Party has been really taken over and driven by their crazy radical AOC, Ilhan Omar type radical left-wing people in their party. And as we've seen on the bottom level, just normal citizens, they want blood. They want violence against conservatives. And that translates in Congress to you can't ever side with anything that is Trump backed. And that's why we have some people who are Democrats who I never even thought were super radical voting against this thing just to kick the can down the road. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it's very intentional. That's why. It's intentionally done. And I think that these radicals really have taken control of the party, and they're continuing to not have a place where there can be bipartisanship with anything. Like, I think they're very much enjoying and pushing it as far as they can towards the midterms, to where they're hoping to gain control of either the House or the Senate. But it's really unfortunate that they can't even look at the American people and be like, you know what, this will benefit even our party, and instead, you know, just dig so far in the sand and say, nope, we're not going to support you at all. We're going to die on these hills over these small things. And like you said, it's a short-term resolution. This isn't like for the entire fiscal year that they're voting on. So it just seems like a lot of nonsense to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so question for the table then. After all this information, who do you think is to blame for the government shutdown? Is it entirely Democrats, or are Republicans a little culpable?
I mean, I think it's clear that the Democrats are responsible for this.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. It's the Democrats. Like, if they didn't filibuster, if they would have just, like, had a handful of them vote for the resolution just to push it down the line and, you know, actually get some negotiating happening, this wouldn't be happening.
Well, if they came to the table to negotiate in good faith, right?
Right.
And not treating it like a hostage situation, which is what it feels like.
They don't actually care.
Everything's
I think
so
there's some
dramatic.
bigger issues in America that the Democrats need to focus on in their own cities. Like Ilhan Omar, why is there so much illegal activity happening in your city?
Exactly. So yeah, question of the week, please let us know in the comments. Who do you think is culpable? Do we think it's a little bit of both? Is it more one than the other? And let us know why. We're so interested to hear that. And yeah, you see that it's not just like right versus left in terms of like the tension in our country right now and in the world, but this bleeds out into just like your values, and values are under attack. And this kind of goes into what we've been seeing this past week with the attack on the Mormon church. It got lit on fire. And actually this past week, Crystal, you're telling me about an attack on a synagogue in England.
Yeah, just in the past couple days, right? And it's like, I feel like we were just talking about this last week or the week before, and we've been talking about this for a while, this uptick in just political violence, and violence especially against people of faith. You know, you can take them all off. We don't need to go down that road, but we saw the Mormon church this week. Morgan, I know you have thoughts on that, but also in England, just a couple days ago, a synagogue was attacked. And this comes 2 weeks after, I don't even know how to say the name of the artist, some like Irish rapper. That's a thing. About 2 weeks ago, was on stage in the UK, like saying some very hateful things about Jewish people.
Was it Kneecap?
No, I
that's
don't know
another
how to say
one.
it. There's a couple, but you've seen this a lot, right? And like in Keir Starmer's Britain, there is a major attack on free speech and on people of faith, and we keep seeing this time and again. So a couple weeks ago, this Irish rapper was on stage basically calling for violence against Jews, which is insane. And just 2 days ago, lo and behold, it happens, and there was an attack on a synagogue. At least 2 Jewish people died. This was on Yom Kippur, which is like the holiest day for Jews, right? And it's just, it breaks your heart. But do you want to comment on that before we?
No, I mean, they're both, like, it's not just political violence, it's religious violence. And I do feel like it's happening on only the left side towards the right, because you see, like, I personally do not see how you can be a Bible-believing Christian and be a liberal. Same with even a lot of Judaism, following the Old Testament, even Mormons, like, although I am not a Mormon and don't align with that, it's just unfortunate that faith-believing people, whatever religion it may be, are being persecuted for their beliefs that honestly hold you to a higher standard. And it is the rhetoric. Like, you know, you just saw a famous person in the UK stand up on a stage and like want and wish violence to get against people. You're seeing that happen in America, honestly, weekly. That leads to, I don't think just political violence, left-wing violence. We saw that obviously happen with Charlie Kirk this month.
Yeah.
Direct result of Democrats continuously calling for violence against conservatives, and it just like continuously is happening. And then when you see it happen, not just internationally, but then on American soil, I just feel like it hits home a lot more. There was the shooting at the Catholic school. Yeah. And it's like, how many times it's going to happen, whether politically or religiously, where Christians and conservatives really have, I think, a duty to stand up and do something and fight back, have a message. And I mean, I know a lot of churches that have armed security where members of the congregation are carrying while they're in church. And it's really sad that like we have to go to these extremes to protect ourselves so that we can worship Jesus Christ, you know?
Exactly. Just the simple act of expressing your faith and going into church. You're not even protesting. You're not rallying up a bunch of people. It's just you're going there to have an intimate relationship with God. And that really, like we keep saying on this show, it feels like spiritual warfare.
It's good versus evil. These are evil people that are out, not just in our country, but in the world, that wish to harm and kill Christians and just, I guess, silence the messenger. But I know that, you know, you can't actually silence a messenger. The message will only grow louder. And that's,
and it is.
We're here. And
it
it
is very encouraging. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen it so much in the aftermath of Charlie's assassination, and even more so every day that goes by where there's more nonsense like this happening. It just fuels the fire. But 100%. I want to give a quick disclaimer before we pivot to a portion of this interview. This is like 2 weeks in a row where I've gotten to do solo interviews.
It's really cool.
So I'm not mad about it.
I like this segment that we have.
I like this. Yeah,
Next week, POTUS.
Okay. Say less. It just is happening somehow.
Don't call him.
But, quick disclaimer. The interview that we're going to share a segment of is with Katie Lamb, who's a member of parliament in the UK. She's amazing, a young conservative woman, like just doing the Lord's work in the UK. And she is not afraid to shine light on some really, really difficult truths. And so when we roll this, just know there are some expletives in her floor speech. It's really sensitive content. She's talking about these gangs around the UK of mostly Pakistani or Pakistani descent males who are raping and pillaging young women across the UK, some boys too. And it's really a tough subject, but just if that's not your thing, or if you have young kids around, you might want to fast forward or pause, save the rest of this for later. We'll release the full interview next week, similar to how we dropped Sage Steele's interview yesterday, plug. But in the meantime, we're going to roll this and then we'll give you our reaction.
Yeah. The girls we are talking about, Mr. Speaker, are predominantly white. The men who preyed on them were predominantly Muslim, generally either from Pakistan or of Pakistani heritage. One of the victims from Dewsbury was told by her rapist, I quote, "We're here to all the white girls and the government." Will the minister accept that, in many cases, these crimes were racially and religiously aggravated? How, without a national inquiry, can we understand what part these factors played? There is no question that the state has failed these children time and again. Take the case of Anna from Bradford. Vulnerable and in residential care, at the age of 14, she made repeated reports of rape and abuse to social workers who were responsible for her. But just the following year, aged 15, she married her abuser in a traditional Islamic wedding ceremony. Far from stepping in to stop it, her social worker was a guest. The authorities then arranged for her to be fostered by her abuser's parents. The ringleader of the Rochdale rape gang, Shabir Ahmed, was employed as a welfare rights officer by Oldham Council. And yet not one person, not one, has been convicted for covering up these institutionalised rapes. So why have ministers refused to establish a dedicated unit in the National Crime Agency to investigate councillors and officials accused of collusion and corruption? And I am sorry to say that that unit, Mr. Speaker, must also investigate police officers. In one case, the father of an abuse victim in Rotherham was arrested by South Yorkshire Police when he attempted to rescue his daughter from her abusers. He was detained twice in one night, while on the very same evening, his daughter was repeatedly assaulted and abused by a gang of men. It is clear these criminals were unafraid of law enforcement. In Kirklees, Judge Marson said, "You were seen with your victim on at least 3 occasions by the police. None of that deterred you, and you continued to rape her." How, without a national inquiry, can we know how and why these monsters enjoyed effective immunity for so long, and how can we be sure it will not happen again? We on this side of the House have voted for a national inquiry and tabled amendments which would guarantee the publication of ethnicity data on a quarterly basis, terminate the parental rights of convicted sex offenders, and make membership of a grooming gang an aggravating factor during sentencing so that offenders get the longer, harsher sentences they deserve. Will the Minister commit today to adopting these amendments to protect our children? Finally, I would like to read to the House one particular ordeal, just one example of what these children have suffered. I must warn colleagues, and especially those in the gallery, that this is extremely graphic, but we must not look away or sanitise this evil. Sentencing Mohammed Karar of Oxford to life in prison, Judge Peter Rook said, "You prepared your victim, a 13-year-old girl, for gang anal rape by using a pump to expand her anal passage. You subjected her to gang rape by 5 or 6 men. At one point, she had 4 men inside her. A red ball was placed in her mouth to keep her quiet. When she was 12, after raping her, she threatened you with your lock knife. Your reaction was to pick up a baseball bat with a silver metal handle, strike her on the head with it, and then insert it inside her vagina. This is not about me. It is not about the minister or the Home Secretary or any of us in this chamber. It is about them. Little girls up and down our country whose brutal and repeated rapes were permitted and hidden by those in the British state whose job was to protect them. They deserve justice. In 5 towns, these children and their families may get partial answers. But I have mentioned 5 towns in the last few minutes alone, and there are at least 45 more. In those places, they will get no answers at all. What does the minister have to say to them? The British people deserve to know the truth. What darker truths does the suffering of these girls reveal about this country? And why won't the government find out?
Wow, that was a hard watch, but
Shocking.
it's so important to know these stories because it just feels like England in Great Britain, they're just like a few years ahead of us if we don't heed their warning with stories like this.
Oh, I was just in London last week, and it's almost unrecognizable when you see how many people are just walking around in full burqas, women in hijabs, and the city of London, it's like, where are the British people? And it makes me sad and honestly angry hearing these stories because similarly to America, it seems like that part of their government cares more about these immigrants who are practicing Sharia law, which really has no place in the UK. Similarly to the United States, where you have people in our government prioritizing illegal immigrants who are doing the same thing, having gangs, raping our women and children in America. Is it happening at this volume and this graphic? Maybe, maybe not in America. There's probably a lot of cases that we don't know. But you see these third world immigrants coming to America and flooding all over Europe, destroying these cities and these countries that used to have such rich, beautiful European history. And it's a direct result of what happens when you have weak governments and weak people that aren't actually doing anything to protect the borders. And I always say, like, immigration without assimilation is just an invasion. Like, and all of these people that are going to these different countries, they don't care what your laws are. They follow Sharia law. They follow the Quran, and they don't care what anyone else around them thinks. They're not scared of the government, and that's something that's really scary and really shouldn't have a place or a home in any of these countries.
What's really frustrating to me, and obviously this is heartbreaking, you'll see the rest of the interview, I have a hard time keeping it together because it's so demonic. It really is. But what's so frustrating and just makes me so angry is that because of the rot of cancel culture, you have an entire system, the social worker who was at the wedding.
It's like you have to accept it.
Like the police officers who don't say anything because they're afraid of being called a racist or something like that.
It's like disrespecting their culture or religion. And I think that's like totally BS.
Right. It's just so, it makes me so angry. So angry.
And I know we talk a lot about like our conservative values, our Christian or just like religious values are under attack. But then also it's like this is very one-sided because like their religious values are allowed to just be dismissed as like, oh, that's just like
that's just the way it is.
That's just the way it is.
No.
And I mean, it's not just in England. Like you said, that there's just so much spiritual warfare going on here on American soil. We were talking about this before. There's been increased violence against ICE this week and a lot of Antifa protesters who are just as like hateful and have as much vitriol in their heart are like really cheering on these attacks and like creating that rhetoric bubble. And actually you did a great straight to cam for us about this, a great video. So if you haven't seen it yet, go check out on our social medias. Morgan explains this in depth and just all this increased violent rhetoric against people who are trying to safeguard us from
evil,
alien invasions, basically, and evil like this. And you would still think that the left is being persecuted by the way that they're complaining about like, oh, ICE and like ICE is attacking our communities and all this stuff. And it's like, well, no, they're actually keeping us safe. But one of ICE's biggest ops, one of their biggest opponents is Bad Bunny. And we have to delve really quickly into pop culture this week because I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about Bad Bunny being picked as the NFL Super Bowl performer this year. Ew. Crazy. Very anti-ICE. He doesn't even perform in the U.S. because he was like, ICE could be outside of my concerts. And he's saying this because he is from Puerto Rico. He is a Latin American rapper and singer, and he only has songs in Spanish. It's honestly like, I've bumped to Bad Bunny at the club before, you know? It's like pretty fun. But the choice of having him at the Super Bowl, it's a political choice, and it's not lost on me because he is very anti-ICE, especially in this time. NFL could have picked anyone else. They could have offered this spot to anyone else, but they picked him.
I've been really off on my hot takes on this, like the Super Bowl in general, because I feel like not that long ago, my hot take was that Taylor Swift was going to be the halftime performer.
Well, that's what it was rumored, that Taylor was going to be announced as the Super Bowl halftime performer. She's coming out with her album this week, so I'm very excited to listen to that. Or I guess by the time this comes out, it'll already be out. But when it comes to Bad Bunny, I feel like there's nothing more anti-American than having like someone like him perform, especially when everyone watches the Super Bowl halftime show. Like whether you love football or not, the halftime show is always like everyone's eyes are on it. Even last year was super political with Kendrick Lamar. But I mean, some of the best performances have come out of the Super Bowl, and then it's just like a total letdown with Bad Bunny, and it really is just a slap in the face to Americana culture. That's what football's all about.
And you've seen this time and time again, because actually I'm gonna land the plane with this. It connects to Jay-Z. But, and yeah, okay, first off, I do understand Bad Bunny's Puerto Rican. He's an American, but he is so anti-American. We've seen in his music videos, like him at the top of the Statue of Liberty, putting down the Puerto Rican flag and making fun of Trump, and basically just having this like leftist fantasy voicemail that Trump is leaving Bad Bunny, being like, I apologize to all immigrants. I was so mean to you guys. And I was like, okay, like that's enough. But it connects to Jay-Z, because ever since 2019, Jay-Z and his entertainment company Rock Nation have been co-producers of the halftime show, and they've gotten final say of who performs. And ever since he's taken over, it's been Usher, The Weeknd, the hip hop power group J-Lo, Shakira, Kendrick Lamar, Rihanna, and now Bad Bunny. Notice how these are all pretty popular performers, but no one who's as big or as culturally relevant as like Taylor Swift, or maybe like
no white people.
No white people.
Something I thought.
I have seen a lot.
Just a coincidence, I'm sure.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of talk on social media, like Jack Posobiec saying, should Turning Point host like an alternate halftime show and stream it during? I'm like, yes.
Yeah, they want to have Creed, which I tune in.
I'd watch Creed perform as a, back smack to the Super Bowl. Why not?
Yeah, and especially seeing how many people really showed out for Charlie Kirk's memorial, I think they could pull it off. Like before I'd be like, oh well, it's conservative commentators, Turning Point USA, like they're important to us, but I don't know if it's important to the world. But now I'm like, you know what?
Maybe it is.
People might actually just want to see Creed perform and not Bad Bunny. I would tune into that.
It sounds more American than Bad Bunny is.
I mean, I'm with you though. I really wish Taylor Swift was performing at the halftime show, especially considering her new album came out. And I'm going to save this for next episode, the little review on it. But
I don't know. Like, there's still part of me that's like, maybe this whole Bad Bunny thing is like blowing up the press to get more eyeballs on the NFL,
a PR stunt,
which is like losing viewership all the time. And so maybe they're just trying to get everyone all riled up about the NFL and the Super Bowl halftime show, so that eventually they can come around and be like, well, we compromised and we're choosing Taylor.
Oh, imagine the left if that happened. They were like, this is so racist. Like, they were going to be like, oh, they're replacing this Hispanic art. Yeah.
I don't think Taylor would allow herself to be second choice, to be honest. It would need to be like a whole thing for herself. And like, I mean, Taylor's got her own political problems, but I do think objectively that would be a better performance and more pro-Americana than Bad Bunny. And I think if the NFL really wanted to boost their viewership, I think they should maybe just cut the woke commercials and just like promote football and the American dream.
And no more Pfizer commercials, Travis Kelce. I don't know if that was during the Super Bowl or something else, but we just don't need to see that in general. But thank you guys so much for joining us again today. If you were joining us on Rumble or YouTube, it's so nice to see you. And if you didn't, that's okay. Glad to hang out with you for a little bit this weekend. Please, again, make sure to go check out Crystal's great interview with Sage Steele, and follow us if you want to keep up with us so you can see another episode of Problematic Women, see her interview with Katie Lamb. I highly, highly recommend you return for that one. It's really great, and it's very important stuff. But also, Morgan and Crystal, so much fun having you guys here again.
Great to see you, girls.
It was so much fun hanging out. We'll see you guys next week.
Cheers.